As a vegetable gardener, I want my garden to give me an abundance of delicious homegrown food, and I'm sure you want the same. And over the last few years, I've been trying to look at ways and learn skills and techniques to make this vegetable garden more productive. But then I hit a barrier. And I realised that although I had a lot of individual skills that made a difference, what didn't quite work was knowing how to make all of these skills work together so I could create an efficient and productive garden, looking at it from a bigger picture rather than all of the individual elements. So in this video, I'm going to give you some things to consider that are really going to help guarantee long-term food abundance from your vegetable garden. This video is to celebrate the launch of my new online course called More Food, Less Effort that comes out today. And you can head on over to abundanceacademy.online to find out more, and I'll also chat about it a little later on. Skills such as knowing how to space plants, intercrop and do succession sowings are going to help improve your garden's productivity. But it's also important to look at other skills such as how to best organise and manage your time and your energy in the garden, and also how to approach a lot of different tasks in the most efficient way possible. I think that the element that contributes to the greatest success of a vegetable garden is not your usual compost quality or sun or water. It's actually about you, the gardener. And I'm a firm believer that if you, the gardener, are efficient and productive, then ultimately your vegetable garden will be efficient and productive. And it frustrates me that there's not more discussion around the gardener rather than the gardens. And I think it's really important that we all invest more time and energy into ourselves as a gardener, which will then have that impact that we want on the vegetable garden. And ultimately, it's just about having the skills to free up our time and to feel less stressed so we can enjoy more of our time in the garden. I think one of the most important skills that can come from growing food is a skill of patience, or at least that is a skill that I'm certainly getting and perfecting from it. And when we have big expectations of our gardens and wanting to grow a lot of food, we can get caught up and worry so much about trying to change everything all at once. But something that has really helped me is learning the idea of marginal gains. And marginal gains is where you just make small incremental improvements that over time are going to lead to substantial improvements, especially if it comes to applying it to your garden. It's something like the 1% rule. So if you can just improve something 1% at a time or 1% every single day, then in 100 days, you'll improve it 100%, which is great. And I'll give you an example. This is the parsnips, and something that I learned watching James Prigioni's video about Bill Mollison using the technique of planks to help parsnips and carrots germinate better. It's something really simple that I applied, tested it last year, had amazing results, and every year now I'm going to be using this. So it is one small change, but it's going to lead to substantial harvest, not just actually in the first year, which is lucky for this one, but for many years to come. Something that I do to try and ensure long-term food success is something that actually causes quite a lot of discussion, and I was inspired by a comment I got on my last video, which was, why am I watching someone with the British climate when I live in Australia? And I think there's actually a huge advantage to watching YouTube channels from different climates, because you can take ideas and adapt them to your own. And I think it's really important that we do get an idea of the gardening skills used in different climates, because we can find things that we can adapt and apply in our own climate. And a prime example here are the broad beans, which you might have seen in the video about growing food without compost. We've lightly mulched these with grass clippings, and I got this idea because it was a different climate, a much warmer climate, and they were using thick grass clippings as a mulch and also hay, and I thought this is great, but it's not really suited for a British climate. So instead, I thought I'd adapt it and apply it very lightly. So getting ideas that you can take away from other climates that can then be adapted onto your own climate is a great way to not just learn new things, but to also almost get out of your comfort zone and perhaps find things that end up making a big difference. Another thing that I like to do to ensure long-term food abundance is by constantly trying out growing new things, because these could actually turn into staples. And a prime example is oca, also known as New Zealand yam. So I started off with just 3 tubers and I planted these and harvested them, and they provided with a really respectable yield, and now it's turned into 4 tyres that we're growing, and we're also growing oca in some of the raised beds as well. So it's really turned into a staple just by testing. And if you're curious about things, it's really important that you give it a go, because you might then discover that it could become a real staple and could give you a lot of food abundance. And the thing that I love about testing new things and different things, especially perennial vegetables, is that these tend to be a lot more resilient. So if something else might fail, for example potatoes, at least you have something that can serve as an alternative. A mind skill that I think can play a big role in terms of ensuring food abundance for the long term from your garden is visualization, and this can be done on the micro and the macro. For example, just visualizing away from the garden how you're going to approach a big project. So my dad made this runner bean structure, but if I was making it, I would have just thought through the process, the steps, just for 3-4 minutes before coming up to the garden, just so it is a little bit fresh in my mind. So when it comes to applying it, it'll be a lot easier to do, because it's almost like I've done it before. And a lot of athletes do it. For example, skiers, they will visualize the run before going down it, because it's going to feel that much more familiar. But you can also do it on the macro, and I really implore you to visualize how you want your garden to look, because the more you think about it and picture it, the easier it's going to be for you to then apply that visualization in the physical world. Something that's different to marginal gains is actually having intensive learning periods, and this is something that I do. At the start of every month, I'll think of a theme that suits the month. For example, in February, it could be pruning. This month, it's April, or almost the end of April, and the theme that I'm focusing on is perennial vegetables. So in this bed we've got asparagus, and it's just beginning to come through, and I've spent the whole month reading, researching, watching all sorts of things to do with perennial vegetables, because I found that really immersing myself on a particular theme or subject, it's really helped me to build up links and connections, which might not happen if you're just trying to learn things as you go along. So being able to dive deep, such as diving deep into perennial vegetables, I've managed to make so many connections that are going to create a lot of really positive improvements, hopefully, over the long term, and it's got me growing a lot of things which I otherwise wouldn't have grown before. For example, hostas, because hostas are edible, and I'll speak about this again in a different video. One of the easiest ways to get the most out of your vegetable garden is to remember that a productive garden isn't just about how much food you grow, it's about how much of that food ends up in your belly. And if you ever feel that you're a little bit tired or bored of a vegetable, that is a prompt to go online and to research some different recipe ideas. Because I love recipe books, but I have found some of the most amazing recipes using just normal vegetables that I would otherwise be bored of, and turning them into really delicious meals. And by doing this, it means that you can really use up those gluts and also make the most of, if you do feel bored with something, adding a little bit of spice and energy to it. So those are just a few ideas on how to try and get the most out of your garden without really changing the planting side. It's more looking at the operational side, and it's some fun different things to try out, so give them a go. And before I show you 2 videos that you should watch, which I think really relate to this and also help in terms of the long-term food abundance, I just want to give a quick mention about my online course which comes out today, More Food, Less Effort, and it's all about looking at the garden from a bigger picture. It's about looking at the garden as if it's one body or one organism, and how all of the different elements work. And it's really dedicated for you, the gardener, and how you can create little systems, whether it's in your mind or using things like how to set priorities, how to approach a to-do list the best way, how to know how to manage big tasks. All of these things are covered in 12 video lessons, and I think it's really going to help you be able to get the most out of your gardens. I really think that this course is going to help bridge the gap between having the gardening skills and having the dream, because it's going to show you how to best package and utilize and organize the tasks that you need to be doing and your time and energy. And in a nutshell, it's a course about how to work smarter and not harder, designed for you, the gardener. And as I said before, that rhymes, that's brilliant. But as I said before, it's really important to remember that if you are an efficient and productive gardener, then your garden is going to be as well. I really hope that this course helps you realise the full food potential that your vegetable garden has to offer, and that you also find a way to free up a lot of your time so you can enjoy a lot more of your time in the garden too. So that's abundanceacademy.online to check it out, or you can go to morefoodlesseffort.com. So if you want to find out a bit more from videos related to this, the first one is about the most important skill, which I think is to observe. Check it out. And there's another video which I did last year talking about the strategic side of gardening, both the growing side and the operational, which is quite interesting. So check that out as well, and hopefully you'll learn some more things from those.